An East Pittsburgh police officer is charged with criminal homicide for shooting and killing an unarmed 17-year-old. Antwon Rose was riding in a car, which was suspected of being involved in another shooting. Officer Michael Rossfeld shot Rose as he tried to run away. Joining me now for their first interview since that officer was charged, Antwon's mother, Michelle Kenny, his sister, Kyra Jamison, and their attorneys, Esley Merritt and Fred Rabner. Thank you for taking the time to come in today. There are no amount of words, obviously, that can express our condolences, but you do have them.
Thank you.
There has been an outpouring of support for your family, for your son. Tell us about Antwon, first of all.
Antwon was kind. He was loving. Antwon would give you the shirt off his back. Antwon volunteered not because he had to, but because he wanted to. We were an extremely close threesome.
One of your oldest friends joined us earlier this week. You two grew up together, Nicole Nesby. She's mayor in a nearby town. And she said he was beautiful and he was so full of life, and talked about the way he would help. He was a skier. He was into sports. He was also a writer. He wrote a poem in his sophomore year, and it's gotten a lot of attention. We shared it, and I'm going to put it up on the screen again. And he talks specifically about you, saying, "I'm not what you think. I am confused and afraid. I wonder what path I will take. I hear there's only two ways out. I see mothers bury their sons. I want my mom to never feel that pain." There have been far too many conversations with mothers in the wake of losing their sons. And I know from friends of mine and from other people I've spoken with, there's a talk that you often have with your son. How hard was it to have that talk with Antwon?
Antwon and I talked all the time. I just wanted him to know that I loved him. I never foresaw anything like this happening, but I just always felt the need to tell him that I loved him. I don't know why, but I just always wanted both of my kids to know that I loved them, but I wanted Antwon to know that he was special. And I really just wanted to stress the fact that there's no love like a mother and a son. I love my daughter. I love my kids equally, but that mother and son love is just unexplainable.
Kyra, you're sitting here with your mom holding her hand. You talk about how you were a threesome. You're such an important rock for your mom. There's so much going on, and we see these protests, and I know that you had asked while you're paying your respects and laying Antwon to rest for them to stop. They have been persistent, but they have been very peaceful. People out there, though, they want to see justice for your son and for your brother. What's it like, Kyra, when you see all of this happening on a daily basis?
Sometimes it's overwhelming, because it's like, that's my brother. And it's crazy because all these people are showing so much love and support. We would have never imagined. We would have never imagined this happening to Antwon, but we would have never imagined everybody just trying to help us. We appreciate it, we do. We're not out there yet because we're still going through our moments. But we're going to be out there right with them. We promise that. We just want justice for my brother at the end of the day. Because my mom, she lost her only son. My daughter, she lost her uncle and her role model. I lost my brother and my best friend. He did not deserve that. Everybody passes judgment. Everybody has stuff to say. But no one really knows them. So it's crazy because we have to sit back and we have to watch the protests fight. But right now we have to grieve before we step out there.
Can I say something? I just wish Antwon was here to see all of this. He didn't live for fame or fortune or any of that. If you read his letter and you read his poem, you know his primary concern was his family. Mm-hmm. But I always told Antwon how much I loved him. But I wish he could see how much the people around him loved him.
You mentioned justice, Kyra, and that you want justice. And I know you do too, Michelle. What does that mean for you? What is justice in this case?
I'd have to turn that one over to the attorneys to answer that question because that's a legal question. And right now I can only deal with how I feel as a mom. I can't see past having to bury my son.
One moment at a time.
1 second at a time. I'm holding on. I don't know how to explain it.
There probably aren't words.
No, I just pray no one ever after me has to feel this way. No one.
The officer's out on bond right now. How do you feel about that?
I buried my son. He's not coming back. We have pictures, memories. I'm glad we do, but I have no words. No words. I mean, for me, I buried my only son. I buried my baby. I don't know. I really don't.
I think a lot of people can understand that and can understand that sentiment. We talked about justice. You said that's more of a legal question for you right now. Lee, what is justice?
Justice in this case means not only the charges, which we appreciate, but an actual indictment, an actual prosecution that results in a conviction and appropriate sentencing. So in a lot of these cases that we've walked through over the years, we see the initial charges that pacifies the protesters and the community, but it doesn't result in a conviction. It is very difficult anywhere in the country to get a conviction of a law enforcement officers. Police officers, because of the nature of their profession, they're given automatic credibility, even when they engage in some of the most heinous behavior. And so seeing this through a conviction is going to take a continued resolve, a continued investment from the community and commitment from the prosecutors involved.
There were some calls early on for the county attorney general, in this case, Steve Sapala, to step down. Here's part of what he had to say following the charges.
I find that Drosfeld's actions were intentional, and they certainly brought about the result that he was looking to accomplish. He was not acting to prevent death or serious bodily injury.
Based on that, there were some calls initially because there was concern about bias with Sapala. Fred, do you believe there's still a reason that he needs to step aside? Should this be handled by the state AG, by the DOJ?
I'm going to let Lee address that issue, and then I'll get back to justice if I have a...
Sure.
Yeah, our concern is Mr. Sapala has been superb in his investigation and his commitment to this family. He sat down with this family immediately afterwards and explained how he viewed the case, and it is in line with how we view the case. However, as a practice, and throughout his tenure, he's never successfully convicted a law enforcement officer. And the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing expecting a different result. And so we are considering asking the Attorney General to step in, who's made the offer. And Mr. Sapala even said that he would be open to that. We appreciate his skill, his acumen, his commitment, but we don't necessarily have the confidence that that office is capable of successfully prosecuting officers just because of their inherent bias.
And Michelle, as we leave, just give us a final thought about Antwon. And you said you would like for him to see the support that's out there. Let us know a little bit more, though, about who this special young man was.
Antwon would sit in his room and he would draw. Just not because he had to, nothing in particular. Antwon was a talented musician. Antwon was intelligent. That boy had an IQ of 120. Antwon would flip-flop between wanting to be a chemical engineer and wanting to be a lawyer. And I would always tell him that, well, either way it goes, you're going to do something great. If you become a chemical engineer, you're going to design something great. You're going to create something great. If you become a lawyer, you're going to have probably the biggest case of your life. I never knew that Antwon would be the victim on the only case of his life. I really thought that if he became a lawyer, he would change the world. Hopefully, through this tragedy, though, he does change the world.
Erica, if I could...
We're just really tight on time. I want to make sure Michelle had the last word on Antwon. Thank you all for joining us, Michelle, Kyra, Lee, Fred. We appreciate it, and we'll continue to follow this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.